I am here to give you a sneak peek of the model that could become the most affordable electric car on sale in the UK. It's a car that will put a spring in your step. But before I tell you all about it, please do subscribe to the channel, because if you're into electric cars of all sizes, this is the place for you. Making a low-cost electric car is a really tough thing to do. You can mainly blame the cost of the batteries for that, but also the simple fact that the smaller the car, the smaller the profit on offer for the car maker. But Citroen has already shown us that small and relatively cheap electric cars are possible with its forthcoming EC3. And a rival to Citroen will be this. It's the new Dacia Spring. And isn't it cute? In fact, the good news is that the Spring will undercut the 21,000 Citroen EC3 when this car goes on sale in the spring, funnily enough, because we expect it to come in at around £15,000. So you're looking at what could become the most affordable new electric car on sale in Britain. We Brits have certainly had to wait for the Spring to be sprung. It launched in 2021 and was a big hit in Europe, with Dacia selling 140,000 Springs over the past 3 years. They then yo-yoed on deciding whether or not to bring it to the UK, and now, finally, it's going to be available in right-hand drive for the first time. So let's start with what it is, and I have a question for you. Is the Spring a little hatchback with a raised ride height, or is it a tiny SUV? Gonna let you argue that one amongst yourselves in the comments below. But I reckon that despite Dacia's bargain basement brand image, the Spring, whatever it is, just looks fun and actually in no way cheap at all. The only thing that remains from the Spring that we drove last summer is the roof. Dacia has changed all the other body panels, and I think it now looks like a cute baby Dacia Duster. It has all the cool features of Dacia's latest design language, as they like to call it. Things like the new logo, slim headlights and funky Y-shaped rear lights. So you'll notice on this car there are no chrome pieces on it at all. Apparently that's because it's bound for the environment. It also might save a bit of money by leaving them off. Instead, what you do get are these fun stickers. There are different options that you can choose from, and you can add them to the car to personalise it. I do think they make it look really cool. There are 6 body colours to choose from. Yes, you've got your classic Dacia colours, but there's now an edition of brick red, which I really like, along with beige safari. And because this is a Dacia, the Spring is all about reducing cost wherever possible. So the trim on the lower parts of the doors can easily and cheaply be replaced if you get a prang in a supermarket car park. And what that chunky styling does is disguise the fact that this is actually a really small car. It takes up the same amount of road space as the VW Up, so it's going to be perfect in our congested cities. So just like the outside, everything has been redesigned inside, and that is a very good thing. It does have a much nicer look and feel in here. So I've been chatting to one of the design team, and I'm going to try and remember what he's explained to me. So colour and trim is quite a big thing in here. If you'll notice, there's lots of white trim there on the top of the open side of the glove box, down in the door bins, just dotted around the place. That's for all the practical stuff, so it's around the driver's information in the screen there. And then you get these additional trims which will come with different levels of spec. There'll be a grey one for the entry level, a brick red one, a bit like the colour outside, and then this sort of course traditional Dacia green one. And that's reflected in the seats, which are very nice two-tone seats. So, bit of the practicality. There is loads of storage space in here. In fact, they tell me it's best in class. But what's interesting is they've obviously, because it's a compact car, done away with a big centre console. You just haven't got one there. You know, you don't need it. You'd rather have the space for your elbows, wouldn't you? So you've got this really cool box which has been designed to house the gear selector, so just down there, which I like, with its white trim. And then you've got a storage compartment. Now they're going to develop accessories for this car. You might be familiar with the U-clip, which is this little clip here, and you can find them dotted around the car. I think, yeah, there's one in there, so if you want to, for example, clip a light in, light it up if you want to do. Oh, and incidentally, if the open sort of second part to the dash is not your thing, you will be able to get a covered version as well. And you've got little clips that you can use and clip it on there, and you've got a cup holder. But yeah, I think it's a really nice practical interior. There's some nice touches of fun though in here as well. And goodness me, it feels like a massive step up from the previous version. There are 3 trim and equipment levels on offer: Essential, Expression and Extreme. It looks like we'll be taking just the top 2 level trims in the UK, so even the entry level car won't be the most basic. So in terms of screens, well, you've got the screen here right in the driver's eye line, of course, which has got all the information that you need to access. And then you get a second screen here in the centre. Not as big and imposing as in some cars, but you know, it doesn't need to be. It's got everything you need on there. Navigation, links easily to Android Auto and also to CarPlay. And then I'm also really pleased to see that you have got physical buttons down there as well for those key functions for the climate control. I do hate messing about in the screen for everything, and I think there's a really nice mix of screens and physical buttons in here. However, the smaller, more cost-conscious feeling is evident when you get in the back. Now, admittedly, you don't expect it to have the space of the VW ID.3 in here. That costs nearly double the price. But it does feel compact. You know, headroom isn't great, the doors don't open particularly wide, which could be a bit of a challenge if you're getting children in and out of car seats in the back. So let's talk about legroom. So the driver's seat is set up for my height, 5'4", and I'm just about okay in here. But you can imagine, can't you, get somebody taller in the front and that legroom is really disappearing. I think if you're regularly carrying larger teenagers, adults in the back, you might want to look at a car like the Citroen EC3 or perhaps the MG4 that just has a bit more space. Yeah, you definitely don't get any of the niceties here in the back that you get in the front. You've got a very straightforward door pocket. And look, how retro. Lock, unlock. I haven't seen that in a long time. The boot space, well, it's actually not so diddy. It's actually larger than the boot on a Peugeot E208, and that's a car from a class above. And the seats, well, they fold back almost flattish if you need extra space. And there is a frunk that you can spec as an extra. It's a decent size, good for your charging cables, and you know, I reckon you could fit your wellies in there. Right then, battery and motors. And in the UK, we're getting just one battery size. At just under 27 kilowatt hours, it's about half the size of the Vauxhall Corsa Electrics, quite a bit smaller than the 44 kilowatt hour battery you'll find in the forthcoming Citroen EC3. But this is the really interesting part. Dacia claims the Spring will be able to cover 137 miles of official range on a full charge, which is more than the Mazda MX-30, and that has a much larger battery pack. So the key to the Spring's longest range is its efficiency. Now this is a diddy car, but it's also a really light car. It tips the scales at just under a tonne, which sounds a lot, but let's put that into context. This car is about half the weight of a VW ID.3, and as we all know, lightness increases efficiency. So while there's only one battery on offer, there are 2 different electric motors, both powering the front wheels. 65 horsepower motor and a lower powered one with, wait for it, 45 horsepower. Bless. The 65 version delivers fairly sprightly performance. 0 to 62 takes just under 14 seconds. But that smaller one, 0 to 62, will take a rather leisurely 19.7 seconds. Look, I think it will feel quicker than a Citroen Ami, maybe. But seriously, if you're not going anywhere in a hurry and a lot of your journeys are just around town, it will be more than enough for you. Dacia has also added regenerative braking to the Spring this time around. It's where, of course, you can use the brakes for one-pedal driving, and it recoups all that precious energy that would normally be lost and feeds it back into the battery for extra range. So that gets a big round of applause from us. Charging speeds, well, they're not the speediest either. The Spring has got a 7 kilowatt onboard charger, and charging on a home wall box will take around 4 hours. It'll take around 11 hours on a 3-pin socket, but as always, we don't really recommend that. A DC charger does enable faster charging. 10 to 80% is a rather pedestrian 45 minutes, but really this car is designed to be topped up little and often from home. The charging flat is handily located here at the front, and you can also order a vehicle to load adapter, which allows you to charge an array of electrical appliances from your car. And that is the kind of equipment that you expect to find on a larger and more expensive car. Now, I know the Spring won't be everyone's cup of tea, but I do think that this car will enable people who have perhaps been priced out of switching to electric to make that switch. You know, it's a fun car, it's affordable, and it's a sign that electric cars are getting more accessible for everyone. And that puts a spring in my step.